about the war from Lego videos than my own president.
The first one I found, and one of the most prominent ones, is on the 23rd of March. Trump had spent the weekend preceding that threatening Iran's power plants, much like he is now. But then suddenly on the Monday morning, before the stock market opened in the US, he said that the United States had had very good and productive conversations with Tehran. You go back though and look at the trading volume data, and you see a massive spike in the number of oil futures contracts exchanged between about 14 to 16 minutes before the post. That's hundreds of millions of dollars, and those traders will have made a huge amount of money through what's known as short selling.
Turns out the most consequential moments of Trump's second term, from Liberation Day tariffs to, of course, the Iran war, all share one thing in common: evidence, clear signs of insider trading. And I'm going to show you some of the brazen examples in just a moment. But before I do, Cenk, I was led to believe that insider trading was a crime.
No, that's only for the masses and apparently for Martha Stewart. But
I know, man, they did her dirty. They did her real dirty.
You know why? In case people don't know, here, just pause on this 2 cents, but because Martha Stewart has no institutional power. So like, I remember Mike Wallace.
Bitch got money though.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's not institutional money.
Yeah.
So I remember when Mike Wallace did this super tough interview, and I was like, this is like the toughest interview I've ever seen him do. It was for Ricky Williams, a football player. And who at that point I believe had retired already. Since that guy has no power, he can kick the crap out of him, right? That's the media version. Now in the law, like if you're attached to Goldman Sachs, you're gold. You could break any law, you could steal, you could do insider trade. No, Trump insiders, no problem. Major banks, no problem. The only people in the 2008 crash, where they crashed the entire global economy, cost us 13 million jobs of real people. The only people who went to jail was like a 27-year-old at Goldman who had not listened to his superiors, I believe. And then one other guy who tried to steal from Goldman. And those are the only two that I believe went to prison.
You're right,
okay?
I remember that.
And so institutional power is what our media and our government protects, but they like to pretend they're doing law enforcement, so every once in a while, or real journalism, so every once in a while, they'll pick off someone who's famous but has no institutional power, like a random football player or a random person on TV who does trinkets around the house.
I mean,
that's
she does
how
more
this
than
game
trinkets.
is played.
Let's not be doubly unfair to Martha Stewart. She does more than trinkets around the house.
No, God bless. Okay,
she's a homemaker, a real homemaker.
But I want to now do my actual 1 cent here, and then back to you, Anna, for the facts. So I want to start 3 years in advance the movement of no pardons for the Trump family or Trump insiders.
Good luck.
Because I know what's going to happen. They're going to go, oh, we're going to look forward and not backward. Oh, you know why? Because if there's a normal corporate Democrat that comes into place, let alone a Republican, they'll be like, well, I mean, we also do insider trading, so let's just give them pardons and pretend it's because we're being civil. No, now a lot of the right wing, I think, will join us, and every independent will join us. No, if they did this insider trading, we got to make sure that they go to jail for a long, long time. Go ahead, Ann.
All right, let's start with the regular stock market, then we'll move over to these prediction markets. All right, so take a look at a few examples of suspected insider trading schemes. So this is a graph put together by the BBC, and it shows the oil futures market on the morning of March 9th. That day, Trump told a CBS News reporter that the Iran war was complete, pretty much. So he keeps saying all these like flowery, wonderful things, giving you the impression that like, oh, this war is almost over. Is it because he's telling the truth? Obviously not. But he knows that the markets respond well to him pretending as though there's they're engaged in peace negotiation. He's just manipulating the markets. That's all he's doing. About an hour beforehand, as you can see, let's put that graph back up, guys. As you can see in the chart, the oil futures market saw a huge volume of bets. Specifically, traders were betting that the price of oil would fall. And oil prices did fall after CBS released their interview with Trump. Okay, but that's not the only example. According to BBC, anyone who made that suspiciously timed trade could have reaped millions of dollars, did reap millions of dollars. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Next graph. So as you can see, the same phenomenon did take place on March 23rd. That day, Trump went from threatening Iran's power plants to announcing productive negotiations with Iran. After Trump's announcement on Truth Social, the price of oil fell. And when you look at the oil futures market, less than an hour before Trump's post, you can see that that trading volume spiked again, okay? Same as before, those traders were betting that the price of oil would drop, and it's very likely that they're close to Trump and they knew he was gonna make that announcement. I mean, that's the speculation. We can confirm it by actually, investigating. But is that gonna be investigated? No, it's not gonna be investigated.
No, guys, so what's super relevant here is what is the normal level of trading on an average hour and an average day? Because if the trades are huge, but there's normally huge trades that happen in this market, then okay, it's perfectly normal. Don't get bent out of shape over it, right? All the numbers are large in the markets, right? No, this is extremely unusual volume of trading. So by the way, that is the number one thing that investigators look for, unusual volume of trading. The number two thing they look for is timing. Was it right before some big announcement? This, if there were any investigators left in our government that cared about white collar crime, would be ringing every bell in the house. It'd be whoop, whoop, what is a 5-alarm fire, okay? But do you know what Trump did? He fired almost everyone looking into white collar fraud as soon as he got in. At the SEC, at the IRS, at almost every organization, the very first people he fired, Doge and all that nonsense, was a cover story for firing anyone who would look into white collar crime.
I can't believe a con man would do something like that.
Oh, I know, and we pointed it out at the time. So a legendary con man fires everyone who would catch con men inside the government. Gee, I wonder if it's a coincidence.
But guys, understand how devastating and destructive this is, okay? Oh yeah, sure, there's a bunch of nasty little profit-seeking scamsters making money off insider trading, okay. But the insider trading is based on statements that Trump is making publicly that are full-blown lies meant to manipulate the markets. So we as the American people can't even rely on the President of the United States to give us straight facts as we're in the middle of a war.
Yeah, Anna, you're so right, because the insider trading is a huge crime. But I lost track of what you just said there. The second crime is, my God, you're lying to us about people who are gonna die and not die based on the war because some insider of yours is gonna make a lot of money?
I'm learning more about the war from Lego videos than my own president. Do you guys understand how weird and insane that is?
Yeah, and look, guys, again, so the reason why they can't lie about this as well as they used to, before mainstream media would cover up all the crimes of the powerful, right? But in this case, there's people, and they're not partisan. I mean, they could be left, right, it doesn't matter, that track this stuff for a living. And by the way, oftentimes will trade off of, like, for example, the Pelosi tracker, et cetera. They're not tracking just Democrats or just Republicans, they're tracking all the politicians.
Right.
And what they're coming away with, the conclusion is, oh my God, that's definitely insider. Someone knew right before Trump's announcement that this was gonna get done. So now you can go to all those people who saw it with their own eyes and tell them, no, the most important command of the government is that you ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears. But we're done ignoring it. So mainstream media can't cover up these crimes anymore. So
I want to go to the prediction markets, which I don't even dabble in, but it's a big thing and it's become a huge problem. So if you don't know what prediction markets are, it's these websites like Kalshi or Polymarket is another one of them. And you can make bets on, like, I guess anything and everything. Like, is Cenk gonna wear a blue shirt today? Yes or no? Like, I guess that kind of stuff. But people are taking bets on war-related nonsense, right? So the BBC and The Guardian have revealed that Polymarket users are making some very fishy trades. Here's one example. Let's take a look.
Called Burdensome Mix set up an account on Polymarket in December last year, and between the 30th of December and the 2nd of January, this account placed $32,000 on Nicolas Maduro, the Venezuelan president, being ousted. The next day, he was seized by US Special Forces and the account made nearly $500,000. Then it changed its name and hasn't placed a bet since.
I'm just thinking of my life and my choices. But back to you, Cenk.
I was wondering what you were doing. So they're double dipping. So they're betting on the markets and they're betting in these markets. Look, I love gambling, and so I thought, well, it makes sense that if you can gamble on sports, you can gamble in real life events. Except I did think in the beginning, wait, if you could bet on real life events, some people will already know the answer, or they can actually determine the answer. Won't they bet on it? And then I thought, well, I guess they'll do regulations. Now that was silly.
No, that was super silly. That was super silly.
Of course, they're not going to do any regulations. So here we are, and they're just robbing us blind.
So they're making all sorts of high volume, or there have been a high volume of suspicious bets on the war when it comes to these prediction markets as well. For instance, on the night of February 27th, the day before the US and Israel would carry out strikes on Iran, an unusual influx of about 150 accounts on Polymarket placed bets that the US would strike Iran the next day.
And so these are the same people, Anna, that pretended to be in favor of the Stock Act and banning insider trading in Congress. And now the administration is doing it on a nuclear level. I mean, steroids doesn't begin to describe it. And so I think on one of the Iran trades, somebody made $58 million.
Yeah.
And there are rumors that it's like the call is coming from inside the house. Look, it's obviously coming from inside the White House. The question is who, and there's rumors about which Trump family member is the one actually placing the trades. But no amount of Fox News propaganda is gonna protect them when our economy crashes and America sees red over all of the crimes of the Trump family and insiders.
Yeah, the French didn't respond well when they were told to just eat cake. That's all I'm saying.
I'm for peace, and we have to.
Peace has worked out real well for us.
Yeah, we have to do a political takeover here, and we have to do it in 2028. And there is no other option. The only other option is what we're worried about, which is what Anna's talking about. I don't want it to come to that. Nobody wants to come to that. I want to do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't come to that. So what these idiots don't realize, the super rich and the super powerful, is they keep jabbing and poking everyone.
As mass layoffs are happening, by the way. Okay, let me just say, the environment is being set for violence. Okay, so if you don't want the violence, you have to understand how these dynamics are playing out. When you have, we already had an insane amount of inequality, okay? But now on top of that, there isn't just inequality, there's complete lack of opportunity thanks to the AI, AI wiping out these jobs and these mass layoffs that are happening.
So we are not the ones who want the violence, we're the ones trying to prevent the violence, and we're telling you that there is an iceberg straight ahead. And everybody on the ship is rearranging the chairs on the deck and going, what would they know about an iceberg? We're unsinkable. I'm telling you, you're sinkable. So if they don't turn around by 2028, God knows what's gonna happen in this country. So, all right, let's all hope for the best.
I'm gonna go ahead and bet on God knows what's gonna happen to this country.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.